For a transcript of this episode, training plans, and more, visit marathonsfortherestofus.com. Hey, Coach Carl here with Marathons for the Rest of Us. This week's question is, how can I run a consistent pace in my training for the marathon? And I think that this is a great question because I think too often people get a little too concerned and a little too wrapped up in what their pace is on any given day when they're training. And so I want to talk about the times that pace is really important, talk about the times when pace isn't that important, and talk about how you can keep a consistent pace during each run itself without worrying too much about keeping a consistent pace from run to run. So the first thing to know is that your training runs really should not be all at the same consistent pace. It's really good to have some variety and some variability in the pace that you're running when you're out there training. So this idea of running a consistent pace and the pace that you're running on each day may not be as important as most people think that it is. Now, there are a few times where a consistent pace is really important in marathon training, so I want to talk about those first. The first is speed work, and when I say consistent pace, your pace may vary a little bit throughout the speed workout, but you need to have an idea of what speed or what effort at least that you want to be hitting during your speed work so you can make sure you're getting the appropriate benefits out of it. If you're not running at a pace that allows you to accomplish the goals of the workout, you're not only wasting time, you're wasting energy, and you're increasing your risk of injury. So you need to make sure that you have a consistent pace in mind for the speed workouts. In a similar vein, when you talk about doing goal pace work for the marathon, the whole point of that type of workout is to get used to how goal pace is going to feel on race day, so you can learn what it feels like and the signs that your body's telling you about how goal pace feels. So if you go into a goal pace workout and you're not able to run a consistent pace, and it's a pace that's wildly different from your goal pace, you're definitely not accomplishing the point of the workout, and you're really not teaching yourself anything useful to use on race day either. And then the third situation, and this one only sort of counts, is the long run. I think it is important to know what pace you want to be running and run a fairly consistent pace in the long run. But the type of long run that you're doing means that pace is going to vary quite a bit from long run to long run. So I don't want you to come away from this video thinking, I have to hit the same pace in my long runs every single week or I'm not going to get the benefit out of them. That's definitely not the case. There's going to be some long runs that are shorter, that are more recovery focused, where you absolutely want to go slower. There are some long runs that are going to finish at marathon pace, and like we just talked about, you want to make sure to run marathon pace on those. There are a lot of factors that are going to make running a consistent pace each and every run difficult. There are 4 big ones that come to mind, and that for me is life stress, weather, hills, and your fatigue from previous training. All 4 of those need to be taken into account when you're deciding what pace to run each day. And all 4 of those are going to vary widely from day to day. So saying I'm going to run X pace for all of my runs and not taking these factors and not taking these stressors into consideration is not only unrealistic in my mind, I think it's also harmful to you as a runner. I think you're not going to get the same benefit from your training, and I think you're going to increase your risk of injury if you try to force the same pace day after day rather than taking those factors into account and adjusting accordingly. Now, to try to answer this question a little bit more directly and to talk about how to keep a consistent pace within each run, I think there's a few different things that you want to keep in mind. The first is to make sure that the pace that you're planning on running for that run is appropriate for the type of run that it is, right? A long run versus a recovery run versus speed work. And I think you want to make sure that you're also taking into account where you are fitness-wise, what the conditions are like, what's been going on in your life, and all of those factors as well. I think if you take all of that into consideration and you come up with an appropriate pace for that run, I think it's reasonable to expect that you can keep that pace consistent throughout the run. I think it's also important to allow yourself a range around that time because there are still going to be hills on your route. There are still going to be things that affect how you feel throughout the run. So giving yourself, say, a 20 to 30 second range, I think is more beneficial than saying I'm going to hit this same exact pace and then feeling bad about how your run went if you fall off of it at all. And finally, I think you want to start out at the slower end of that range for the first 1 to 2 miles of your run. That way, if it's a day that you're not feeling great, you can just keep it there, you can stay nice and consistent, you can feel really good about it. If it's a day where you're feeling good, you can pick up the pace, you can work towards the faster end of that range, and then you can get into the habit of picking up the pace as you're tired, negative splitting your runs a little bit, and that's a great habit to get into as well. So in that situation, you may not be keeping a consistent pace throughout the whole run, but you're picking up the pace gradually as you go, and I think that's actually more beneficial and a better habit to build leading into race day. So those are my thoughts on pace during marathon training and whether you should keep it consistent or whether it should vary from day to day. I hope that information is helpful. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for future videos, either email me at carl@runningcoachcarl.com or feel free to just leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.